Hello, everyone. My name is Ren Zhang. Great to be here. Today, I'm going to talk about the path to scale with AI. Before I get started, let me give you a little bit quick intro of myself. So I'm the data science director in Amazon. I joined Amazon a little bit over 6 months. Before Amazon, I've had in my entire career in financial service area, doing all kinds of things from risk management to fraud strategy, cross-selling, marketing analytics, personalization, pricing, all kinds of things. So what I want to share with you is that with all those experience, use data, analytics, and AI to drive business impact. What are some of the challenges we're facing, and what are some examples we've seen and lessons that we've learned? So going to the first page, as people already know, AI is such a buzzword today, and we hear it all the time. It has been used in all kinds of industries. It has changed our life, changed our expectation. The personalization experience people already see day in and day out from our app, from the website. That's just one basic example. However, with the well-recognized value of AI and wide application of AI, there's still many companies actually that struggle to see the tangible return from AI. Why is that? What is making it hard? What is holding AI back? So what I listed here are a few areas that are the typical challenges people see that make AI make AI tough to get value. The first one, the top the most, is organization and culture. Generally, for AI to make it work, AI is very different from many other applications like software development or product development. It has its unique life cycle. And for many companies, it actually require transformation as well. So to make AI work, we need an organization to have a very open culture, is willing to embrace the change, willing to experiment, and willing to adapt. And very importantly, not only to have that culture to impress, the organization also need to empower the team, the science team, that will make AI available. Either the science team will have the decision power to make it happen, or they're partnering with a team that is empowered and also embracing AI. So organization and culture is probably the most important part. We need to make it right, otherwise it becomes a barrier. The second one is talent. In fact, actually, the data science or AI talents now is widely available. People may see, right? There are so many university open classes in those areas, and there are so many like boot camp to train people. We do see many of those talents emerging. However, the talent I'm talking about, the actually hard to find, most critical talent to make AI available is those can bridge business and technology, bridge technology and AI and business. Those kind of talent, they can translate the business problem into the right science problem and work with technology team to truly implement the correct way, ensure the right experience. So those are the talents actually find extremely hard to find, and those are the talents that will make AI successful. The third one is about data. We all know data is ingredients, right? Without that, nothing will happen. Actually, many times I've heard the saying, which I absolutely echo, if I have a choice, more data versus more advanced methodology, I will always go with more data. And if I may add one more layer, is that if I can have quality data, I would definitely go with quality data. So curated data with high quality is going to ensure the successful AI. And many organizations, when they first started, they actually do not have luxury of that. Another part is a feedback loop. The more information you capture, the more accurate they are, the higher your chance of success. And the last one, very importantly, is about the infrastructure. So in the infrastructure side, people may not, as we implement AI, we all know that it will take some time, sometimes the investment to truly make AI available. And people sometimes shy away from it. It feels too costly, takes lots of time and lots of money. There are ways for you to take phased approach to minimize the initial cost and eventually get to where you are. So I'm going to talk about those as well. So those are the 4 areas to sum that actually holding AI back. Typically, if organization can do it well, we have a very successful path going forward with that. Now, going to the next page, I mentioned a little bit in the infrastructure side. So phased AI approach is extremely important. Like I mentioned, many organizations, the time when they think about the AI, they thought about millions of dollar investment. They feel there's so much uncertainty. I don't know what I'm getting, and the upfront investment typically make people shy of moving forward. What we've experienced is that you don't have to invest that much upfront. You could take phased approach. What I'm showing on this page is that going from a proof of concept to production and eventually to reusable capability. As you move from one phase to another, the business value you're going to see actually is going to exponentially increase. But the advantage of this approach is that your initial investment to get benefit of AI actually may not be as big. So proof of concept, that's where typically the science team will work closely with the business to understand what is possible, to establish the quick wins. And at the same time, make sure whatever we build here will become a building block for the final solution. Actually, this stage is extremely important. Lots of time that we have certain expectation what we want to do. But when we look into that, and through the POC, we may find that where we originally planned to invest huge, actually the benefit may not be as big. And there's other things we probably should consider which we haven't. So this proof of concept stage truly help us into the production to decide what we're going to treat as systematic, to establish institutional discipline and create feedback, create the fast cycle test and learn to make sure that we further advance AI and getting more business impact. And the last stage, actually that's where you truly get into the sweet spot. That's a reusable capability. For AI, generally people feel launching one project may take lots of time and efforts. Now, to scale, if you can leverage your existing capability to build new solutions and modularize your solution, and that will increase your reliability of individual components, and it's going to drive efficiency and synergy. We have used it again and again. The trick is that choose which part you can modularize and make sure that you build from existing capability rather than try to build from scratch, because there's a risk of uncertainty as well. Okay, so far we've talked about some of the paths in terms of how to scale with AI. Now let's get real. I want to share with you some example we have from the industry in terms of how do we truly see value from the AI? What are the challenges we actually face, and how did we deal with it? The first example I'm sharing with you is one example from a major bank. So this is one of my past roles. In this example that we build a price optimization tool for the branch manager for the lending product. The problem, as typically the challenge we're facing, is it's a very vague business problem starting. The head of the bank basically approached my organization. The problem they're sharing is very straightforward. Business problem is that my branch manager are making price decision inconsistently. That's a business problem we need to solve, right? And we need to break that into multiple components for analytic problem and eventually put it together. So that's one challenge. And two is about data. Historically, the branch manager, they actually did not save all of the information. If they see some application has low chance of getting approved, they don't record in the system. So as a result, we believe the typical approval rate for a loan application should be around 60, 70% also. But if we look at the data, you have more than 95% approval rate. That means a huge portion of not qualified application were not in the system. That actually create lots of bias for this exercise. And the third challenge we're facing is on the data side is also that competitor information actually is extremely important when it comes to pricing side, how likely customer is going to accept your price, but that information is not available historically as well. And the last most important challenge we're facing is a skeptical of AI in this whole process. Branch manager actually, they really trust their experience. They make judgmental call when an application comes and they decide what the price will be. Now, for them to trust a model to make the decision for them, it's a huge leap of faith. So we need to overcome all of those eventually to deliver that. And what we did is that, we actually, first of all, we created the project, make sure that we have very good feedback loop. So whatever information we have, we are going to start capturing the competitor information to feed future models. And the model result we share will make sure that we document the feedback from the branch manager. Do they agree or disagree? If disagree, why? That will help improve the future model. So that's one when it comes to designing side. And two, we involve the branch manager every step of the way, understanding exactly what they need and what will make them comfortable, and engage them in this process to come up with a final. So from their feedback, actually our design is not only with a model, but actually has an interface, allows them to interpret the model, to understand all of the customer information and why model are making certain decision, how would it impact their portfolio as a whole to make it happen. So that kind of engagement process and showing them example along the way actually help them to adopt the model. And from the modeling side, the challenge actually problem is not simple as well. The challenge we're facing is that individual optimization, it's a challenging problem, but it's solvable. Here we are facing the problem is that we want to optimize actually at portfolio level. So one price decision might be very good for a single customer. However, it may not necessarily be good for the portfolio as a whole. There are strategic considerations. For instance, certain industry we like to compete in, certain geographic area that we like to grow, all kinds of things, or minimize overall loss, so on and so forth. So we need to provide the tool that allows the branch manager to bring in those global controls and tailor the tool. So that's why this project that I use this as an example, you can see that this demonstrates several challenges to make AI successful, from data, organization, and the talent, and of course, in the end, infrastructure side. So we built a very successful proof of concept, the tool, and in that engagement process, eventually get the buy-in. We're able to launch for about 40% of portfolio. That's where the model is confident with the data. And the rest, we plan to continue once we have the feedback loop. So that's the first example. Now, I want to move on to the second example. The second example is an online personalization engine to tailor the experience and build foundation for the future scale. So this is one example also with one of my past experience is from an insurance company. That time we actually started launching digital online product. The top challenge, again, we're facing is about data. Now, for us to build a personalization recommendation, you really need to know the customer behavior. However, when we launched this, we have no online digital product before. So all of the data we have actually are offline behavior and experience. That's the best we can do. We know that model cannot be accurate. When you have a new product, customer behavior changes significantly, but it's better than nothing. So instead of focusing a lot of effort, try to make the initial model perfect, we are focusing on how do we build a system, make sure the model can continue improve, and eventually get to where we want to be, adapt based on the customer online behavior. So what I'm showing on this page is to a diagram, high-level diagram, what we do. So you can see that we have the information feeding both online and offline, feeding into the cloud engine. That's where we host the model. and the model will have the personalized score and have the outcome of the recommendation and feed into the database that actually will host all of the personalized content and presentation, eventually feed into all of those different presentation layers. And very importantly, we also have a presentation feedback loop. Since it's online, the feedback is much easier based on the click stream, right? What's impression people are getting, how they click, and eventually come back to the real-time online click stream feedback to modify the model again. So the engine actually has the development side and the implementation side. So you can see that in this is where we think hard on the system implementation side. Now, besides the feedback loop, another thing when we design the system, you can see the information feed we break into two parts. One is a batch offline information, another one is real-time online. Make everything real-time, it sounds desirable, right? It feels it's best for the customer experience. However, it can be costly as well. So we carefully look through all the information we have and have determined that the offline information actually does not change as much. So we could do an offline feed as a batch feed, so it's feeding on a daily basis. And online, it will be real time. It's just seconds delay. Now, because of this design, actually we break our model design separately as well. So we build an offline model to capture the offline information. That become our baseline model. And the online click actually become adjustment to the offline model and eventually have the final experience. This allows us to significantly reduce the storage side and the performance that we need from the infrastructure. And lastly, I also want to mention, as you can see on the right side, personalization, people lots of time talking about is that personalized. But lots of time what I emphasize is consistency. If you have very different personal experience on different channel you have with a customer, actually it's not a great experience. What you want is that have a single engine in the middle to decide what you're going to present to the customer, how you want to interact with the customer, and ensure the same message actually is consistent and hopefully has been reinforced no matter which channel the customer engage with you. So that actually make the central engine extremely important for that consistent customer experience. So one thing I can mention to you is that when we first get started, the result actually is not as good as we expected. I mean, we already know the result is not going to be good since our data is not online data, it's based on offline data. However, actually, the result is even worse than what we expected. How do we know that? Is we set up the random control. So we did some random content showing, and our initial launch, the random actually comes back to be better than the model, which was very very disappointing. But that also shows very important why this feedback loop is critical. Because without that, we change the model and find out actually turns out to be a data issue. Many of our content is not labeled correctly. So help us to pinpoint the problem and solve it and quickly be able to improve our performance. So I'm trying to use this example to share with people that the end-to-end thinking of design to ensure that you get to the next version model, help you detect whatever issue you may have, is much more important than getting the first model perfect. I'll go to the next example. Actually, this is also the last example I'm going to share with you. So this is an example from e-commerce. Actually, this is an example from my current company, Amazon. This example we actually also shared in public end of last year in our Accelerate Day. We call it Opportunity Explorer. The purpose of this is to identify product selection gap online. So while we offer all kinds of product on the website for customer, we want to know what the customer looking for actually is not there, or we don't have enough support. Such information is going to help the sellers to decide where they should develop new products. It's also going to help us determine what kind of sellers we should acquire to complete the selection gap. And lastly, of course, very importantly, it's good for our consumer as well because they get to everything they need from the Amazon website. So as you can imagine, this project is absolutely critical for the e-commerce. However, the problem is also extremely broad. How do you solve it, right? How do you break it down? So it took us actually some time to see that how do we phrase a science problem. And also another thing we did very importantly is also involve the selling partners in this group. Their feedback is absolutely critical. Many of them have many success in developing new products, not necessarily in the field we identify, but that history will help us to be successful as well. So on the right side, you can see that we consider first is that for the niche generation, how do we group all those different abstract needs into some concrete category? That's a step number one. What we did in here is use all those search information, use natural language processing, and you can consider this clustering, right, to group into meaningful categories. And it's actually tricky is that how detailed do you go? If it's too high level, it's not as meaningful. If it's too granular, it's not helpful either. So finding the right balance is important for that step. And two, where we go to once we have the niche is about the demand. There's underserved demand and unserved demand. Underserved meaning we do have some products, but probably it's not enough. Unserved is that we don't have anything to cover those. We started with underserved because that's where we actually have quite a lot of structure data to help us, and we can have low-hanging fruits to develop quite quickly. So that include information, for instance, the search, the click, and also the sales in those kind of fields, and the search, the sales trend as well. When it comes to unserved, that's where natural language processing will become absolutely critical. So we need to mine the search information and the customer review information to find out what will be a meaningful product. And once you mine those information, there's also another step is that how do you gather from those abstract information become potential product design as well. So we're still in the middle of journey. It's a challenging and an interesting science problem to work on. And it's also it's going to generate extremely powerful business impact as well. So I want to share this example to show some of the depths of customer problem we're solving, and you can also see that why the seller engagement and their feedback is critical for us when this space, it's a massive problem and it is not a well-structured problem from science perspective. Okay. So that's actually all the example I'm going to share with you. So from those examples, and hopefully you echo some of the challenge I share up front for AI to generate value, that we need to truly make sure we solve the potential challenge come from organization culture, talent, come from data, and come from infrastructure. And I hope people will see with those examples that those are journeys that you probably want to make sure that you start with low-hanging fruit, use a proof of concept, but have the end vision in mind and eventually get to where you want to be, have an ecosystem with a feedback loop, continue to help your problem to evolve. And my last page to summarize everything I have shared with you, that here I offer you 6 strategies to achieve return with AI by Thomas Davenport and me. And this is a paper Tom and we publish in the Snow Business Review on MIT. I have the link at the bottom, so you can go there and get more detail of the paper. But there we listed 6 strategies actually addressing some of the challenge I've talked about earlier. The first one is focus on the partnership with AI-friendly business unit. That will get you a quick head start and get some early wins. 2, select projects with tangible values and clear path to production. There are many times you may hear some projects, people will say, it's good to know, it's nice to know. But until you see how the results, the science results, will be used and have a business impact, that's still just a project that's nice to do. And you're already going to have lots of future challenges to see the tangible business outcome. And 3, foster stakeholder trust and sponsorship in advance to the development. That will pave the way to ensure you got the necessary investment needed for your infrastructure build and get your final wins. The 4th one, reusable AI components, products to drive scale. So that's one I already mentioned. That's truly an important one to shorten your time to market in the future and to reduce your implementation cost. The first one, use proof of concept, create a path to implementation that I've already mentioned earlier. And last one, manage the project pipeline towards final implementation. One thing I want to mention with this, lots of time when we're talking about AI science projects, scientists tend to focus on just the science portion. Actually, that will create challenge down the road. I would encourage you always need to consider the project and manage it end to end from the business implementation as well, the business impact. That will ensure you have all of the hand holding and eventually get it done. And make sure you have the right intake process to continue grow your pipeline as well. So that concludes my presentation for today. And hopefully my experience and my learning can help you to shorten your journey to get return from AI. Thank you.
So Ren, thank you. Ren, nice to see you here.
Hi, Linda. Good to see you as well.
Hi, Ren. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I know how busy you are, and also that listening to you talk is so inspiring, and I can't believe how many pieces of advice and valuable insights you were able to provide in such a short amount of time. I think that instead of asking a question, I just wanted to inform everybody Ren is agreed to continue to be with us. We are going to move to network session right after the session, so where you can really ask questions yourself. You know, Ren had laid out so many fundamental issues about AI and business and so on and so forth. So I think that I would really like to see you in the network session. We will have 2 sessions, but it's through Zoom. So session 1, it will be continue hosted by Ren and me, and where we will really open the floor to questions coming from audience. We probably will continue some topics that Ren already mentioned here. And also that we may just talk about, in particular, how to become a successful data scientist. And in session 2, WCA Executive Director Mary will focus on mentorship. I guess we will hopefully to see you in network session 1. So thanks again, Ren.
Thank you.